So I came across this video the other day. I haven't watched it, but I thought maybe we can have a little look since it's about Warcraft 3 and the creation of the soundtrack.
Back then, we were all sound designers, and actually we would only work on music in our spare time. So that was the key thing. Like when you finished working on your sound design, you stayed late and worked on music. The team was so small that
That's
it was
Glenn
a very
Stafford.
close-knit kind of group. My primary role actually was cinematic sound design, but for the first War 3, it was orc music, like a couple of the orc tracks, and then all the undead stuff. That was always my strength, was always the creepy stuff. Regardless of the IP, that's how most of us tend to get inspired is. You might take a unit or a model or a piece of art and make it your backdrop on your computer, make it your wallpaper. That's one way. You might zoom into a zone, or just like, you have commands like create all the units, right? And then just like frame it up, and then just go and sit down at the keyboard and start, finding sounds. Or
So what he's saying is basically put all the orc units together, all the orc heroes, maybe the buildings, and just be like, right, they're going to be like drums. They're going to be like beats. So I'm thinking that's the mentality he's taken to it.
whatever, see what sets the vibe. I didn't know much about it other than like, okay, we're doing a remaster. And then they suddenly showed those things, and I just flipped. We had only dreamed about our characters looking like that.
No, don't say that. You're not supposed to say that. I guess it's like from a perspective of someone that probably doesn't play the game. Do you know what I mean? It's like he created the music and stuff like that, which is fantastic. But it's like, I think as a if you, he's not technically a normie, but I would put it down to perspective of someone that's maybe a normie would like look at it and be like, yeah, actually that does kind of look like a grunt. Wow, look at the detail on it. Yeah, he's big. He's got big biceps. That's a grunt. But when you get down to brass tacks, when it goes into the engine and that, it doesn't actually really work. Like, I understand it. This is one of their better
There's new
ones,
score in the
that grunt, but it's
cinematics as
still
far as
very different to the original look. That's the thing. It's a grunt. It's a take on a grunt. It does look like a grunt, but it doesn't look like a Warcraft 3 grunt, and that's the difference.
what's going in the game. It's still being determined how much will touch the music. So it's like, do you want to play that nostalgia, or do you want to bring it to life in the way that the character models are doing?
Did they even touch the music for Reforged? I don't think they did, right? Probably a good thing. Although the music would be far less difficult to screw up than the graphics. So they could have done like alternative takes on the tracks. Because if there are alternative takes on the tracks, I haven't honestly noticed it. I've always felt like the Warcraft music, whilst very good, is more ambient and sort of its own sound piece than it is conductive to the actual races. Now, there's truth that the orcs have the drums and the undead are creepy with their music and the night elf are mysterious. They did get that right. But if you think of Warcraft 2, like Warcraft 1 music and Warcraft 2, I know all of those. Those are so iconic. And I've played Warcraft 3 a lot longer. But the Warcraft 1 and 2 music to me are like, they're just so impactful. They're so punchy and always there. You're always hearing it. Whereas the Warcraft 3 is like, oh, am I even hearing music right now? Like there's bits where the game volume sort of dips out, and then there's parts where it gets mega loud. If you've ever noticed when I'm recording, it's like, oh, that's the human bit. That's the bit in the human bit where the chorus goes, whoa! It's like, holy fuck, where'd this come from? It's just sort of like out of nowhere. It's not really consistent with the overall consistency of the soundtrack. Like all the way through a regular volume, it's like all over the place.
Man, wouldn't that full orchestra be cool though?
Yeah, it definitely would. So anyways, those decisions are still being made.
So when you went back and listened to the soundtrack again, I assume that you have. What do you think when you go back and listen to your undead music or orc music?
Oh, I still love it. I mean, like, you still hear that music resonate all through the Warcraft IPs. You hear it in Darnhold, you hear it in all sorts of places in WoW. A lot of people are like, oh, we want this to feel like Warcraft. We want this to feel like the original Warcraft. Oh, we want to take inspiration
I miss this,
from
man.
the RTS. You get that a lot because it's the roots of the company. It's the roots of the franchise. It's the roots of the IP. Warcraft 2, Warcraft 1, that's where we come from. Some of the trailers like that you will have seen at BlizzCon are derived from chord progressions in the human music and stuff like that, or segments of the horn melodies and stuff like that. So it's just, it's a never-ending wellspring.
What the hell's going on with the minimap here? What scuffed pirated version of Warcraft 3 have they got? Because you can tell there's a slight difference because the font is also different. It's the original OG font. He's not even using health bars. And this I've never seen before. This minimap looking weird on those parts. But yeah. Oh, look at that. Even hovering over the whole forest troll high priest, there's this sort of translucent overlay backdrop behind the actual white text, which you don't have in Warcraft 3. This is some weird pirated version of the game that they're using to show off the game, I think. I don't know. This is like an original. I mean, maybe it says Warcraft 3 2002, but is this footage from 2002? I don't know.
Of, of music. There's fantasy music, and fantasy music is a category, but not all fantasy music sounds like Warcraft. I guess that's the thing, and there are certain people who can really write Warcraft music, and there are certain people who can write fantasy music. It's sort of combining those hits on the timpani and the low strings and just, voicing the minor chord in the right way that strikes the right vibe. It isn't really a formula, it's feeling.
I would like for them to actually show some of the creation. You can literally see right in front of this guy's screen are these soundtracks. What went into making those specific beats, that timing? What was the BPM? Like, how many tracks were interlaced with one another? I want to see more in the regards to that. This is very much a fluff piece. This video is just kind of overall generic and doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty of what made Warcraft 3 Warcraft 3. So I would love to know more on the specifics, but perhaps it's because it's lost to time that they don't necessarily have that to show us anymore. This video is about 6 years old, actually. It's not that recent. And this is 6 years old uploaded, so it could be even older than that. But I don't know. Even then, they could have still shown, regardless of the age, they could have still shown sort of how the character creation came to be. Some of my favorite bits is when developers are showing how they create the audio. Like in the Dying Light 2, they showed you the developers crunching celery and stuff like that to create like the visceral kind of bone crunching noises. And I like to sort of get into the background scenes of how it's made because I've created music myself, I've created videos myself, I've done things myself, self-taught. So I like to see how they've done it and their mentality going into it. So this is very wishy-washy.
Doesn't get more Warcraft than that, really.
Yeah. It was fun to watch. I enjoyed that, but it didn't give me the meat. It just gave me a thin, wafer-thin layer of ham. So if you enjoyed a little bit of this react, then like the video. I'll put a link to it so you can check it out yourself if you want to. He's a good guy, clearly, but I wanted to see a bit more of the meat and potatoes.